Welcome to MojoPlays, and today we're looking at locations in Zelda games that scale back the usual whimsy, dial up the creep factor with unsettling enemies and chilling atmospheres. But before we dive into it, we publish new content all week long, so be sure to subscribe and ring the bell to get notified about our latest videos. Palace of Twilight, The Legend of Zelda, Twilight Princess. The penultimate dungeon of Twilight Princess takes Link deep within the realm of Midna's people, and while I've always felt it was a bit too short, its atmosphere makes up for it. With everything drenched in shadow and its citizens transformed into mindless shells of their former selves, it's undeniably unnerving. Twilight versions of enemies appear throughout, but by far the most daunting foes Link comes across are Zant's hands. These giant appendages slowly drift towards Link as he navigates obstacles while carrying souls, spheres made of light that you need to progress through the dungeon. Zant's hands can only be stunned, not killed, and are accompanied by stressful music that makes your heart rate skyrocket. Below the Ancient Cistern, The Legend of Zelda, Skyward Sword. The upper layer of the Ancient Cistern is pristine, gold inlaid, and impressive. But when Link descends into the lower floor, that's when things get far more disturbing. Pools of a deep purplish red surround you, holding water that can both harm and curse Link, keeping him from using items. Undead bokoblins rise out of the ground and will get up several times after you put them down. It's an unexpected place to be confronted with given the majority of the dungeon. The most nerve-wracking aspect comes when Link must climb out of this place, with a swarm of zombified enemies climbing after him. The Lost Woods, The Legend of Zelda, Breath of the Wild. In every iteration, the Lost Woods are a mysterious place, but only in Breath of the Wild and its sequel could they ever be considered creepy. That's because they are covered in a dense fog that, should Link stumble into, will transport him back to the entrance. Only by using the embers of a torch can you make it to the Korok Forest, the safe haven in the center. Never before in the location's many appearances had the term lost been so accurate. There are also bogs you can sink into, and giant trees bearing unnerving faces with wide, gaping mouths, lending the Lost Woods a chilling aura. Snow Peak Ruins, The Legend of Zelda, Twilight Princess. Part of what makes this dungeon in Twilight Princess so creepy is the mystery behind it. An abandoned homestead fortress deep within the mountains, it has long been in a state of disarray. Certain ceilings are caved in, walls are left crumbling, and the frigid air outside has caused several areas to freeze over. The only ones who call it home now are a Yeti couple and packs of monsters. As you explore, you can't help but wonder what tragedy befell its previous occupants, and with no answers, your mind drifts towards the worst. The dungeon is also capped off with the series' biggest jump scare, as the friendly Yetta becomes possessed, turning into the boss, Blizzetta. The Depths, The Legend of Zelda, Tears of the Kingdom. The depths were kept hidden from the marketing in Tears of the Kingdom. There's nothing quite like dropping down that first entrance, only to be greeted by spine-chilling music and the complete void of light. As you explore further, the threat of gloom, both from enemies and pools of it across the ground, make prolonged periods of time down here dangerous. Unraveling the depths also brought a distinct layer of creepiness. It being a dark reflection of the surface was both confusing and fascinating, and certain areas even brought unique threats. Granted, the longer you played, the more adept you became at dealing with this strange area, but it's still more than worthy of inclusion. Silent Realms: The Legend of Zelda: Skyward Sword. At a certain point in the story of Skyward Sword, Link learns he must venture into eerie spirit realms that hold tests left behind for him by the goddess Hylia. He must go in alone, without his companion Fi, and without any items or weapons to defend himself with. The Silent Realms, looking like lifeless versions of the areas Link enters from, is certainly alarming, but what really makes us dread them are the guardians who roam there. If Link is spotted by a lantern-carrying watcher, accidentally touches waking water, or enough time has passed in between collecting one of the 15 sacred tears he needs to escape, the Guardians will come to life and hunt him down. Honestly, there's nothing more stressful in Zelda than being cornered by these one-shot behemoths, and being forced to start the test over. Arbiter's Grounds: The Legend of Zelda: Twilight Princess. Before you get to an abandoned fortress in Twilight Princess, you have to deal with an abandoned prison. Said to have once held Hyrule's most dangerous criminals, the Arbiter's Grounds now house them as vengeful spirits and vicious undead. The air of decay that permeates the dungeon is palpable, exemplified by its twisted enemies, forlorn tone, and environmental hazards like quicksand, waiting to swallow Link up. It reaches peak creep during the mini-boss fight with Death's Sword, whose weapon is held in place by protective Ofuda cards, and who flies around the arena wailing like a banshee. The dungeon mechanics tip in the favor of outright joy once you unlock the spinner, but it's still a dark, desolate place. Ikana Canyon: The Legend of Zelda: Majora's Mask. The entirety of Majora's Mask could be considered creepy, or at the very least strange, even in its happier moments. But by far the most unsettling location is Ikana Canyon, the land of the dead. Skeletal stall children, angry spirits known as Garo, mummified Gibdo, and the ghostly Pose populate the area. However, it isn't just the enemies that put you on edge, but the distinct lack of hope that encompasses all. There's Pamela, whose father has been cursed into a half-Gibdo monstrosity, Dampa the Gravekeeper, who is petrified of what happens inside his grounds at night, and the aforementioned Garo, once enemies to the once living citizens of Ikana, who now haunt the land still in service to their cause. Every corner of the canyon vibrates with a sense of dread. The Bottom of the Well: The Legend of Zelda: Ocarina of Time. Undoubtedly scarring many players who experienced Ocarina of Time in their youth, the bottom of the well in Kakariko Village is infamous. There are your expected spooky enemies like the flaming skull bubbles and the forever appalling re-deads. Ask anyone though, and they'll tell you two specific things about the mini-dungeon that gave them nightmares. One, the realization that this was a torture chamber used by Hyrule long ago. Two, the fight against Dead Hand, a frontrunner for the most frightening enemy in Zelda history with multiple gangly limbs and a hellish, grinning maw. Forcing us to navigate this place as a young Link also enhanced its memorability. Both of us were being confronted with unspeakable horrors at an early age, making it stick out in our minds. Shadow Temple, The Legend of Zelda: Ocarina of Time. Following up the bottom of the well with the Shadow Temple makes for a 1-2 punch of fear in Ocarina of Time. While the mini-dungeon is evidence of certain atrocities those in service of Hyrule committed, the temple is a monument to them. Every room features something that gives you pause, something that makes you feel like you shouldn't continue. Or, at least, that's definitely how it feels on a first playthrough. You'll find equipment used for torture and even execution, like guillotines, bloodstains that echo violent acts, and skulls that line the walls. That's not to mention music that features off-tempo percussion and deep, hair-raising moans, and creepy enemies like re-deads and wallmasters. The boss Bongo Bongo caps it off, a humanoid whose hands have been severed and his head removed, leaving a glowing red stump that acts as its weak spot. Is there a Zelda location that made your skin crawl that we left off? Well, head to the comments and share your horror stories with us. And if you haven't already, be sure to subscribe to MojoPlays for more great gaming videos every day.
Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed the video, there's more where that came from.